Hi, welcome back to Guessagaingaming, and here we are back in London, obviously in Watch Dogs Legion, and we're in an area in south central London. We're very close to the river. Actually, the London Eye is not very far away. You can see there is a bridge going over the river, but you can't actually see the London Eye because I'm standing instead near a railway bridge next to a burger joint which is closed. Might be closed permanently anyway, who knows. So today's video is something, it's going to end up being about one specific game probably because it's the obvious one, but that's actually not what's made me want to talk about this. It's actually some games on Steam, but it's to do with early access, and something that occurred to me because of a game or a few games I've played on Steam is how long should we give early access? And also, it's kind of misrepresentation where a game is in early access, and I'm not talking about any one specific game at the moment, although I will, where they don't actually tell you their kind of roadmap for when the game will be done, or if they do, they change it, because early access is obviously what it is. You'll buy a game in advance, hoping that it's going to get made and hoping that it's going to get, maybe you've contributed by making some comments on how it's been made, you're thinking you're going to be ending up playing the full version of the game within a couple of years, maybe 3, 4 max, maybe, hopefully sooner, depends at what point the early access is open to be purchased. But it's a kind of dubious thing. There's a game, I'm not going to mention the name of it because this isn't a channel that's really about Steam games, but it's a small game made by one developer. But it's been on early access on Steam for, I think, about 12 years. And I get it's one developer, and I understand that it's difficult to make a game, and it's quite an expansive game. But 12 years is just too long. I'm sure that the people who signed up for early access back in 2013, 14 probably might not have done if they thought 10, 11, 12 years later it still would be released in a full game. And that's where the dubious part of early access comes in, because obviously you can buy a game in early access that, as you see if you know Steam very well, never gets released. Sometimes they do get released and then they're just released because the developer's given up or they don't care anymore and they've just chucked it out and said, okay, it's released now, buy. Sometimes they don't ever come out of early access, and sometimes they're in early access forever, even with all the best will in the world. And I don't see in this game that I'm talking about on Steam any deception. I just think it's taking the developer a very, very long time to do it, and that's fine. But it's not really, if you think about it, acceptable to be buying a game that 15 years later, 10 years later, whatever, still not been released. Because in that time, as we've seen with everything in the world, and AI and gaming especially, the world of gaming moves on. So would you want to play a game that had, graphics from 2013, 14 and everything from that era, where you're, a decade and more later? Probably not. So it's a very fine line in early access where you get the opportunity to participate in games, maybe influence how they're made, make comments on what you think is good and bad to developers, and they'll turn out, in a few years, and they'll be released. They'll be good game. The developer will keep talking, keep being interactive even after the game's released. And games where they just don't really care or they give up. Things can happen as well, obviously, with anything in life. You can make an early access game, charge people, and then the company, through no deception, can just fold, or someone in the company, if it's a very small team, can give up or get married or have other commitments. So it's a lot to ask people to pay for early access, especially when you're not giving a roadmap of what your timescale is. The obvious game, which I said I'd mention at the beginning, is Star Citizen, which of course is a game that's been in early access since the year dot, and it's still in early access. I saw somewhere, just as I was researching to make this video, just skimming, that it's meant to be released now in 27, 28, and that's just crazy. I mean, it's been, 15 more years that it's been not in full release. And unlike the game I mentioned on Steam, or any game on Steam, where it's a small developer and they're struggling for money, and maybe the early access will keep the projects alive. These people have made like 800 million to fund the game, and I've seen the game, and it looks good, but I don't think it's worth 800 million. In fact, I don't think any game is ever worth 800 million. I don't think virtually anything's worth 800 million, except maybe something to solve cancer or something to solve famine. I don't think 800 million on a game is an acceptable expense, and if it is, and everyone put up a lot of money at the beginning, then the game again should have had clear roadmaps, and if it did or didn't, they should have finished the game a long time ago. I don't know what the issues are there. I'm not an expert on Star Citizen. Last time I did a video about this game, lots of people said I was damaging their investment by talking about it, and how dare I say this, I don't understand. And no, I don't understand, because I'm a layman and I'm not talking about being invested in Star Citizen or having any axe to grind with Star Citizen. It's just an observation in life and in gaming, and nothing, it doesn't matter what it is, that's too long. It's too much money and too long. I don't care how great the game is and how much it's the most unique game in the history of the world, and I don't care how much people, it doesn't matter. That's too long and too much money for a game, and they need to just do it now, because again, the world, even with Star Citizen, which is obviously a much higher graphics intense game, a much more complicated game than a one-person development game on Steam, even that is going to get surpassed by technology. The world is moving fast, much faster than it used to be because of AI, and that game in 2, 3, 4 years, will it be the same excitement for new people? Forget the people, of course, I get that anyone who's already invested in the game, whether it's by playing it or by investing money in it, which is going to be quite a lot of money because of how the game's set up, is going to still want to play that game in 2027, 28. But will new people want to play it? Will anyone new want to be playing this game that's been in development for nearly 20 years, and looking at it, it's good, but if I looked at that game compared to any other AAA game, not any other, but a lot of AAA games now, I wouldn't say, oh my god, it's more amazing. It's not. It's just another game with good graphics, and yes, it's got some interesting content, but again, is that so amazing? Will that be so amazing that it's going to draw anyone new in? So are they just dragging out this game with the people who've already invested for as long as they can? I don't know. And like I said, it's not a video specifically about Star Citizen, but that's just the game that kind of is the poster for games that have been in early access or never full release for a huge amount of time. Anyway, like I said, it's just thoughts. I'm not trying to knock Star Citizen if you like it, and I'm not trying to damage anyone's investment. I'm sure not enough people watch this to damage anyone's investment, but it's just the fault of a layman. And I think it would be the fault if you went, and I try to always think of gaming as also who I am in real life, and how it would be if I told any of my friends, and if I told any of my friends that weren't into gaming, that a game was released in 15 years ago, 12 years ago, and it's raised 800 million, it's still not been released, they would find both those things ridiculous, and many other words I can think of. So I just try to think of how people outside gaming will look at it as well, or people new to gaming who come into it now. Anyway, thanks for watching Guessagaingaming. Till next time, from London, take care for now.